I think ever since I started playing League and you watch Worlds and you watch LCS and everything, you kind of set milestones for yourself. Considering how close we are, I think we're definitely proud. But at the same time, I don't think anyone is going to be satisfied until we prove that we can be a top team.
My whole goal, of why I play League of Legends competitively is because I want to get to Worlds. Ever since Super Hot Crew, I got replaced, I've just improved so much as a player, and I don't want to let it go to waste.
The fate is not in our hands, but this time the third place game means better chances for Worlds for sure.
We have to win against UL. It will mean a lot to achieve my goal, in my first season.
I think it's the most important game of my life.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the European LCS. We are in Stockholm, Sweden for the last week of the summer split. We are 2 series away from crowning the summer split champion and sending 2 teams to the World Championships. I'm Quickshot here with Crepo and Deficio and this fantastic audience.
You just said it, Trevor, here, Hovet Arena in Stockholm. Crowd is fantastic. They look beautiful. So do you guys. We are super hyped for this matchup.
There's a lot of people celebrating your birthday here, Deficio. Quite the birthday party.
Well, thank you.
Happy birthday, Deficio.
Thank you.
Let's hope the crowd and the teams give us some good games. The teams, of course, getting themselves ready. It will be H2k and the Unicorns of Love taking to the stage in a best-of-5. You are well backstage, getting warmed up and getting prepped.
Looking fancy with the headset. We got the fans outside as well. Obviously, Fnatic playing tomorrow in the final, but today, Unicorns and H2k, they won that 3rd place spot.
Yeah, and here's H2k coming out of the backstage. I just want to hand it to the Swedes. Their selfie game is on point. Was outside for 20 minutes. Have never taken as many selfies in my life. So Sweden, your selfie
Their
game
selfie game and their screams. The volume is fantastic. And we're going to hear a little bit more about the matchup we're all going to see as we head over to the analyst desk.
Tak, Trevor, och god dag, Sverige. I'm Evie, Shock's reporter here to break down today's best of 5 with the help of James Stress O'Leary and Sweden's very own Jacob Yamato Cannon Mebby.
Good to be here. Best country in the world, Sweden.
I thought you were going to say it in Swedish.
Bästa landet i hela världen, Sverige.
There we go. Wow. The tone is set, and with just 2 days left in the summer playoffs, we're going to take a look at that bracket and see where the teams stand. No surprises, Fnatic still undefeated, making it to the final here, winning against the UOL, of course, and advancing to tomorrow's finals.
And in tomorrow's finals, they're going to have to face Origin. Origin looking to break that streak. A lot of different opinions on back and forth who's going to win that one, but certainly both teams looking pretty strong coming into the final.
But everything that's on the line here is between H2k and the Unicorns of Love for that 3rd place match, fighting for championship points, which could possibly send them to Worlds. Of Fnatic is, of course, the leader when it comes to those points. But if Fnatic wins the whole thing, that means that UOL or H2k, whoever wins today, makes it to Worlds.
Yeah, very important 3rd place game if Fnatic win. If Fnatic lose, however, it will be Origin that take the 1st seed into Worlds from Europe, and Fnatic will have the most points, putting H2k and the Unicorns into the regional qualifiers, which Yamato, you're very invested in the regional qualifiers. Who do you have your eyes on for winning?
Well, obviously, from my perspective, if Origin wins the finals, that is top-notch for us because we get to face the teams that are lower seeded, basically Unicorns of Love and H2k, and that is the prime-time position I want to be in.
We have beaten OG before, so maybe.
Either way, easy sweep, you know? Yeah. Rocket at Worlds.
And either way, there is a lot on the line today. The winner of here today either goes to Worlds or takes the 1st seed in the regional qualifier. So a lot of pressure on the players. And with everyone eyeing the World Championships, we want to know what you're predicting. So tweet at LOL Esports with that hashtag LCS and tell us which team do you think will win the regional qualifier, and why would that be?
Well, we know who Yamato has picked to win the regional qualifiers, but remember that all the teams that made it into the playoffs are eligible for the regional qualifiers. Except for Fnatic, they've already qualified as either the first seed by winning or the second seed on points.
In any case, a lot at stake here today and tomorrow, and be sure to stay with us as things wrap up today here in Stockholm, because later the NA team at Madison Square Garden will load into their penultimate playoff series between Team Liquid and Impulse. Madison Square Garden, all cool, but this is pretty baller as well.
I'd say it's even cooler. I mean, you know, it's the Harvard Arena. It's normally an ice rink.
Pretty cool. Well, before we take a closer look at today's matchups, let's head on stage and meet the two teams about to do battle for third place in the European LCS playoffs.
Last split we faced SK.
H2k are the #3 team in Europe.
This split is going to be more and more important because we have to win against UL.
For us, obviously the goal is going to Worlds. If we manage to beat H2k, we have very good chances of making it there.
I think it's the most important game of my life. My whole goal, like, of why I play League of Legends competitively is because I want to get to Worlds.
Considering how close we are, it means a lot to try and get there.
I feel like we can make it. Our track record against Unicorns Love has been 4-0.
I think they are a bit in a slump right now. They are not finding their old style. That was really scary.
We have to win against UL. It will mean a lot to achieve my goal, like my first season.
I think we're definitely proud, but I don't think anyone is going to be satisfied until we prove that we can be a top team.
I've just improved so much as a player, and I don't want to let it go to waste.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the teams competing in our EU LCS Summer Split third place match. H2k and Unicorns of Love.
There they are, the Unicorns of Love and H2k. If it hasn't hit them yet, it will now. The nerves must be creeping in. All these people cheering for them. They have to make it happen today.
Yeah, the nerves absolutely must be setting in, but both of these teams joined us in Madrid for the spring finals and third place game. The difference here is the crowd is split between both of these teams. Coming into it today, the chants were for both teams. Nobody has a home team advantage.
Like, I am so hyped. If I was topless right now, you would see my goosebumps.
Well, yeah, we're not going to let that linger at all, but definitely it will also be who can deal with that pressure the most, and realizing it might be for World qualification. We have to win here. Who would you give it to in a situation like that?
Oh, it's a tough one. This is such a close match. I think when you look at it, H2k, they've been looking maybe a little bit shaky when it comes to it, but I think H2k perhaps can pull it out. It's such a close match, though.
I feel like H2k is the favorite on paper, but Unicorns of Love had the strength about and the mental fortitude they always show in games. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, you definitely know about that mental fortitude when it comes to those games. Definitely Unicorns of Love, when it comes to best of fives, they seem to have some kind of magic, and that magic is what you need here.
Well, we'll see if they've got any magic, because the magic did not work against Fnatic for them. When they brought out a little bit of magic, didn't seem to go so well. We'll see what they got in store for us today.
Well, you're Swedish and you're here also very close to where you were born.
How will they now resettle themselves for this matchup against the Unicorns?
For sure, I would agree on H2k, but on Unicorns of Love's side, I feel like the addition of Horo has made them stronger than they've ever been before. Simply because like they played this crazy chaotic strategy, and I feel Horo brings in the consistency they lack.
And I think when it comes to consistency, there's been a consistent problem with the Unicorns and a consistent benefit for H2k. When you look at both teams at 20 minutes, H2k is a team that like to get the lead at 20 minutes and win because they have these very mid-game focused teams. They like to engage in team fight. On the other side, Unicorns, you know, they've been picking a lot more scaling teams and they end up falling behind and then losing. To put it in perspective, you know, H2k, when it comes to that 20-minute mark, 13-2 in games when ahead at 20 minutes, wins and losses. Unicorns 4-12 when behind at 20, and when it comes to scaling, I think the worst we've seen it was against Fnatic just last week, averaged 4,700 gold down in those 3 losses against Fnatic.
That's rough.
That is very, very rough to see. There's some action from H2k. A big thing in this one is the jungle matchup. Of course, you touched on Horo already. First is Lulex in that jungle. Betongjoke is also here, but Lulex will be starting for game 1. And, well, we think that it might be that factor that Horo brings to the Unicorns of Love that can give them that in.
For sure, Horo is the way for them to win. Like if I picture myself Unicorns of Love winning, it's because of Horo. Simply because Lulex in 5.14, I think he's been lacking because he hasn't picked up Elise, hasn't picked up Nidalee. And Horo proved in the game against Rokat, against us, I guess, he showed that he can carry games.
And you've certainly seen the impact that Horo has had in the early game. We saw 91% kill participation pre-15 minutes in the last couple of series. Another interesting thing that Horo has brought to the game with Unicorns that we saw in Fnatic a little bit is he's starting to improve the warding of the Unicorns of Love. Watch out during this series for any chances where Unicorns can ward deeper into the enemy jungle. It didn't pay off against Fnatic, but it's certainly a massive improvement for the Unicorns.
For sure, for sure.
And you were mentioning the champion pools, of course, already. It was a big question mark coming into the playoffs for H2k as well, and not that much has changed.
Yeah, for sure. If you take a look at H2k's like Lulex champion pool, we have champions that have been nerfed. Gragas has been hit with a nerf. Graxa has been hit with a nerf, and then Elise has been hit with a massive buff. You have to pick this champion up. And with that in mind, I feel like the edge obviously goes to Unicorns of Love in the jungle matchup.
We will see. It might be hit or miss for Lulex. Someone who has stayed incredibly consistent across the board for H2k is Ryu. And in this matchup, it is so important because Power of Evil is on the other side. And honestly, what we've seen from his champion pool recently causes concern.
Yeah, to me, it's even becoming problematic to the point where Unicorns have to seriously look at this. Power of Evil in Spring Split, the beginning of summer, was this player, you know, that had this wealth of talent. He was bringing Varus to the dance. Just all of these massive different pool of champions. And now he's kind of gone to Orianna. We saw the Ezreal when it's not being played as a meta pick, the Kayle when it's not meta pick either. And the problem is he's hamstringing the rest of his team, picking these scaling mid-game champions from, scaling late-game mid-champions. And it just is not paying off for the team. It's difficult to play around.
For sure. And I feel like the biggest issue that I see for Unicorns of Love, they had this issue 1 week ago. And usually when you lose a match in a bracket system, you have to go into repair mode. What went wrong? And I feel solving an issue like this, it is massive. It doesn't take 1 week. That's why I'm slightly worried for Unicorns of Love coming into this.
Unless it was the super long con and he has something up his sleeve and we'll all see about it. But with all this, the mid and the jungle, what is going to tip it in the edge of H2k or UOL in general?
I feel the biggest factor must be the bot lane. We've seen Cassin carry games on that trash, but the thing that is worrying for me, like, we have these champions, Sivir, obviously both Yarnan and Vardax like to play Sivir, and then we take a look at the rest of Vardax's champion pool, doesn't do too well, Adnan Kalista, the Lucian as well, the Jing 0-3, and this is very worrying because I feel like H2k can go in with the same strategy Fnatic had in their best of 5.
I think there is one big difference between the ability for Fnatic and H2k and picks and bans is they now have to fear the Elise. Just because they'll be able to first pick Sivir, if it happens in game 1 and they leave Elise up, Horo on Elise could be a major factor for the Unicorns when it comes to setting them up for an early game, which they then get to that later game stage where Power of Evil is a monster. That is one area that the Unicorns may have in their favor coming out of picks and bans.
Well, a lot to theorize. We will have to see what happens. And now for a word with the coaches behind these two squads, we're going to step on stage with Richard Polscam.
Thank you very much, Sharks. I'm joined by Sheepy and Prolly ahead of their game. Now, first off, Sheepy, a couple of weeks back, I know it's difficult to hear me right now, but a couple of weeks back, I asked you about where's the Gouda, where's the cheese, where is it gone? You busted it out, you busted out some Wednesday Dale, it didn't go so well. What was the thought process behind that, the Ezreal and the Kayle pick?
Well, it was kind of predictable after you said it already before that we're most likely going to lose against Fnatic, so I'm actually happy we could attend. But yeah, against Fnatic, they played really, really strong. We took the most we can from this game. We learned a lot, and after a 3-0 crushing defeat, we don't look to have that repeated on us, so we prepared well.
Yeah, well, looking to bounce back now. Prolly, we just heard it from Chachi just then. He feels like you're in maybe a little bit of a slump right now. Do you agree that your team may be in a bit of a slump right now, as Chachi said?
I don't really think it's a slump at all. I think it's just, once we get all the energy from the crowd, the right H2k will show up today.
Well, there is a lot of energy from this crowd right now, Prolly. And as a follow-up, we know the best of fives are about recovery and development through that best of five. Do you feel like H2k over the last week has shown that they could be that team?
Yeah, I actually think we're one of the better teams in between games. I think we always talk about the right thing and important thing and are able to do that pretty well. So, thank you guys. I think I think it's going to be a really good series, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Best of luck on the Rift. And before we head to the caster desk, we're going to hear from Kasing and how he thinks there's a vulnerability in the bottom lane of Unicorns.
I feel like Hylissang, he's the type of guy, like, yeah, he can make a play, but I just feel like sometimes if he's not on Fresh or Morgana, and if he's on Annie or something, he may get engaged, but after that, it's like, he doesn't really know what to do after. I mean, I think he's still good. Like, there's a reason why Unicorns of Love are still doing so well. But I feel like that can still backfire, because I remember against Rocket, like, he walked into them and died instantly without even using anything. And it was kind of like a really obvious kind of mistake, which I don't think really good support should be making.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to jump into picks and bans for game one in this battle for third place. H2k and UOL, they still want to go to Worlds. And winning here will give them the championship points that just might get them there. As we get ready for picks and bans, it is 5.14. Deficio, I know you feel strongly about UOL and their chances in the draft.
Well, I feel like if we look at the semi-final match against Fnatic, Unicorns lost a lot of those games in the pick and ban phase. They had so many problems. The fact that they didn't play the Kalista meant Sivir was always first pick by Fnatic. We need to see changes. Otherwise, H2k is just going to ban 3 mid laners again, Orianna, Varus, and the Victor, and first pick a Sivir away from the Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, and both these teams, they realized that because both H2k and the Unicorns of Love opted to take blue side in every single game where possible because H2k had the higher seed. That means game 1, 3, and 5, they are blue side if it goes all the way. Except for the last one, actually, they did manage to change that up just to throw them off if it goes that far. So that was a tiny mistake. Game 5, switched up.
So, let's see the bans. We talked about it, H2k, Varus, and Victor coming in. Orianna is what we're expecting as the last one, unless they want to ban Elise, if Lulex does not play it yet. He had another week now to practice. He did not show it in the semi-final.
Yeah, traditionally, being on purple side allows you to counterpick in the mid lane, but as we saw last week, Power Evil simply ran out of champions. He was forced to play Devour Kayle, have that Ezreal with the completely changed Runeglaive, just didn't quite work out, so we need to see if he picked up that Azir. Because with Victor out, Azir is top priority.
For sure. Yet, we haven't seen it, as you said, from either of these mid laners. Only Febiven of the last top 4 teams have really been using it. But Unicorns adapting, they're banning the Sivir. We knew was going to be the first pick. H2k could go for Shen right here, because that was a very contested pick in the Fnatic Unicorns of Love series. And it's a fine first pick with these bans coming in.
It also plays flex for Kasing and Odoamne. They put the priority on Thresh, though, which is something that Kasing has defaulted to a lot this split. His most played champion, 7 wins, 2 losses on Thresh.
I still don't think it's needed to first pick it.
Yep.
There are so many other good supports open. All of them, Alistar, Braum, whatever you want.
The first pick Thresh, it used to be good if you were pinching the support pool. That means if you would have banned Alistar, banned Annie, banned the old Morgana that Hylissang used to play so much, then take away his precious Thresh. Right now, he has a wealth of options available. Unicorns, they can start taking away power picks, they can start building their composition. They're not pressured yet in this pick and ban phase.
And I want to see if Corki is going to be a pick for Vardex this series. He went Lucian every single time. It did not work. They built compositions around him, where he had to do well in the laning phase. He's a guy who goes even. He will never win that lane on his own. Instead, I like this adaptation. Put him on a Corki where he can sit 1v2 and farm.
Exactly. Corki excels at farming in his lane alone while the support is roaming. So if Hylissang can team up with Horror, Forty's roam plays even earlier in the game, as we've seen in series where Hylissang would base, go to the top lane, surprise people with a two-man Tibbers, while Corki is just farming safely in the bot lane. This could get the stability for the early to mid game that the Unicorns were lacking.
And I'm just going to throw this out there. We did see Corki mid a couple times from Roccat, in fact, leading up to the playoffs. So there is a minute flex. I don't expecting it, but it is something I want to mention. Shen, Gragas, they're up for H2k if they want to look that way for Oduamne, or Lulex, he's spamming Lee Sin at the moment.
All the time in solo queue, he's shown it multiple times in playoffs. It is to add a little bit of more early game pressure. It's good at diving towers and then early vision control, which is what Lulex can bring to this team. On the side of Unicorns though, with this Corki lock-in, I do wonder if we're gonna finally see that Annie once again from Hylissang, so he can roam, so he can start fights in the mid game, because I feel as a team, Unicorns need him on an aggressive support, because he is the main playmaker, he's the main engage for the team.
Yeah, they definitely need some forward pressure coming out of there from Hylissang. Because traditionally Power of Evil, he leans back, he waits, whether it's his champion scaling up, Kale needing 30 Devour stacks, AP Ezreal trying to scale up with a broken Runeglaive, anything, Orianna needing a couple items to get rolling, he needs time. To buy that time, you need an aggressive jungler, an aggressive support to land those engages, and we have to see if the Unicorns can fill out that with the next few picks.
They can take Orianna now. Finally, there is a blind pick option for Power of Evil. That was one of his problems last week. He always had to last pick, which we know they like to do for him, but that could also be why H2k is leaving Orianna open, because they can now take it here as a safe pick, because Power of Evil likes to get that last pick, likes to get a potential counter pick. So Orianna could come in now as the safe option for Ryu in the mid lane.
Hylissang is going to get the champion that really made him famous in the spring split. Been banned 15 times here in summer. Did lock in that Morgana. One thing I do want to highlight very quickly, H2k are sticking to their traditional style, putting a late game scaling AD carry on Hyanin and relying on him. If they go for that Orianna, it's going to that very traditional H2k of playing the game.
I want to see if H2k can lock in Azir here potentially, and then just play a peeling tank top, and then you have so much control with two very high damage threats coming out there, and then you have the early game sorted with the Lee Sin and the Thresh.
Azir, Orianna, these safe picks. Lulu is banned from Unicorns, could have been another option for them. But into these tanks top, we have seen Olaf get locked in a few times. They don't have anything to speed him up this time for H2k, so not expecting it. But at the same time, we talk about this Tristana Thresh here. It is still a strong bottom lane in the start. That can get some kills on what Unicorns bring to the table.
H2k don't opt to go for that style. They're putting on the aggression. They're putting on the heat to say, okay, aggressive threat in the top lane. Rumble, we have an assassin in the mid lane. Ahri, even if Power of Evil goes for an even lane, I will start roaming. So that pressure on every single lane. And I do like that approach in the first game of a best of 5, when you can catch your opponents off guard. They're still getting used to the stage, still getting used to the crowd. And especially if you pick up a couple kills, the whole arena, they'll go nuts and they'll support your team.
They will, and when you face a slow scaling Power of Evil, you have Lee Sin and you have an Ahri, that 2v2 is in your favor almost every single time. So that also shuts down Horo at the same time, at least makes it harder for him to have an impact. That opens up for Lulex to get in that deep vision, and suddenly you have very, very strong early skirmish for H2k, which is what they like to play around to get that lead. We saw the stats from Stress before, 2,000 goal lead at 20 minutes on average. That's how they win the games.
We may actually want to see a lane swap coming out of the Unicorns here.
Oi!
Finally, everything changes. Point is gone. From passive mid laner, he finally locks in some aggression, because the Unicorns of Love were at risk of getting out 2v2'd in the mid jungle combination and the top lane jungle combination. If that happens, you lose pressure on so many lanes. That gives bot lane a free reign as well, and then it becomes very hard for the Unicorns to do something. So finally, some early pressure from PoE.
I feel like we've asked for this pick for such a long time. He was the guy who kept using Syndra and EU LCS. Look back to the spring split. He was winning games for his team on it. He had that very aggressive approach. Now he's going back to it. This matchup here, very, very explosive when you have two, let's call them assassins here, against each other. It can snowball so heavily. So if both junglers meet up there with both mid laners, whoever outplayed the other one might just take over the whole early game.
The only risk I see here is Unicorns are very magic damage heavy and get outscaled. They have this tank utility top laner, they have half magic damage on Corki, they have full magic damage assassin that kind of wants to just one-shot some guy and then it's done. On the mid lane of Power of Evil, they'll need to snowball the early to mid game, because otherwise it'll be rough.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be difficult, because Unicorns of Love have not been able to snowball any early or mid game, arguably because of their team comps. What this team comp does scream to me is Unicorns are going back to what they were successful with in the spring playoffs, in the spring season. Morgana, Syndra, these champions that can do a good job. You can see the team comps on your screens. H2k or Unicorns of Love. Let us know who you think will be winning as we load up onto the Rift for the first game in this best of 5 from Stockholm, Sweden. Ladies and gentlemen, for championship points, for a chance to make it to Worlds. Who will be winning?
And let's once again look at what Unicorns have changed here. Why it's a good improvement for them as a team. Whenever they would have these slow scaling mid laners, they would fall behind in the early game and would never really be able to return. They would never be able to claw back and win the games here. Syndra changes it. Corgi, this is obviously the issue because there is no physical mid laners outside of Varus for Power Vivo, so you have these very magic focused. Also Chachi almost always playing tanks in the top.
Yeah, we can finally see some action coming out in the mid lane too. Double ignite, both sides. No cleanse shenanigans, no barriers. Both want to go for that kill. So stack that CC coming up and knockup from Horo. Landed combo with Power Vivo's abilities on that Syndra. If not, Lee Sin, some Ahri play there.
Some early advantages here for H2k. Get themselves some deep wards, aggressively grouping up, and Unicorns late to react. They're not going to get the same level of vision. So for H2k, a little bit of information extra to play with.
Yeah, a little bit weird approach from Unicorns of Love. Normally, unless you're sitting ready in that jungle they're invading as 5-man or 4 members to have a trap, if you see them invade, you just do exactly the same on the other side of the map. You walk into their bottom side jungle, you place a few wards, so you share the information. Right now for Unicorns, they don't know where H2k is starting, they don't know where the dual lane is going. We can see Yana and Kasing are heading towards the top lane, maybe hoping for UL to show up as well there with their dual lane.
Regardless of why it happened, it ended up happening. Morgana obviously starts Q right now because the Tormented Soul did get nerfed, so less laning power in that regard. Likely see both supports hit level 2 here, take the Gromps respectively and start roaming immediately. AD carries go solo into lanes if the teams figure that out. Kasing, he's finishing off that Gromp. He'll be level 2, so expect even more action around the mid lane potentially.
And we're going to have to look how Kasing handles himself, because in the semi-finals, didn't live up to the expectations that he set for himself. You can see that early roam with level 2, trying to jump on Power Vivo with that flash.
The lane is in a good spot. It's in the middle here for Ryu. Hylissang will not be able to respond with the same power than Power Vivo, realizing that's just, oh, nice hook anyway, but charm already used from Ryu. Didn't time the abilities, didn't trust each other to land one of them.
Well, to be fair, if you aim them both like that, you either walk into the hook or the charm, or you have to flash, so in that sense, it does work out. Power Vivo gets chunked early, and that's all we need. We need pressure, because the map now gets divided in 2 halves. H2k take the left side, Unicorns of Love take the right side, but they were 1 move behind because they didn't know this lane swap was coming.
Now the funny thing is, H2k, we've said this multiple times, they used to be known for having so good lane swaps. They were always a step ahead of the other team when it came to adapting to these new swaps. And Unicorns, on the other hand, always struggled in them. But now we see this standard 3v0 push going on where Odo Amne is going to take the wave here. He's going to get the tower when it dies and then have the wave bounce back to him. Unicorns might look to do exactly the same.
A good play here from H2k. They initiated the lane swap. They've got the heavy tower pressure AD carry in Tristana, and they have significantly more lane swap experience than Unicorns of Love. So a good, strong early game start for H2k.
Yeah, you can see what's going on here as well. Unicorns of Love, they ran to the bot lane, saw nobody there. Then Hylissang went to the red buff. Meanwhile, Varexet is already pushing, so the tower push is not in sync. Not a good bounce though. Uncharacteristic mistake here from H2k.
However, look here at the bottom lane. Unicorns were so busy trying to play in the shadows here in the jungle of H2k, take away some of the camps, hope that someone would show up so they could dive in with 4 members. They didn't fast push the tower, so it's now still alive. H2k has a tower advantage. As long as this freeze that Chachi can set up here down towards his side of the map doesn't become too problematic, then they're going to be more than fine. You can already see how Horo is showing up to make sure Chachi can push this wave out as well.
All of this stems from the early decision making from H2k. They initiated the deep vision, they initiated the lane swap, and they've got themselves a very small lead. We'll see how they handle themselves. As we can see, Horo still hanging about in this top lane, trying to put more pressure on Odo Amne.
Yeah, and Odo Amne is a player that thrives when he gets ahead, but he has crumbled under pressure in the past, especially on those Rumble picks too. So we'll need to see if he gets ganked, but yeah, Horo's been spotted by that ward 3 times by now, so complete information on the side of H2k. Now it's up to Lulex and Kasing to abuse that and get a lead at the other side of the map.
And a very key thing, as we saw that top tower go down, the bot lane tower stay. Vardax stayed in lane for quite a while. He recalled pretty late. That meant once H2k returned to the bottom side with Yana and Kasing, we can see him getting binded right here, but he will be fine. They could invade into the jungle and get some deep vision. That's what we just mentioned with Lulex and Kasing together. So because Vardax recalled a little bit too late, H2k has the map advantage.
And we'll see whether or not that deep vision in the jungle will help out that mid lane, because now the lanes have set up. Vardax gets caught by a death sentence, forced to Valk early, and he gets the ignite.
And Lulex is waiting in the shadows. Hylissang face checking, gets caught.
He's going to be in trouble. Lulex not going to follow in with that resonating strike.
Obviously, both teleports are available here from the top laners.
Yeah, and you don't want to risk the support flashing on her own tower, and you're like following with Lee Sin, being like, no, shouldn't have done that. Instead, Lulex, he's still here applying pressure because Hylissang and Vardax, they got chunked in that last trade, and it's not looking good for them in the bottom lane.
And this Thresh Morgana matchup is one we haven't seen in quite a while, but it's all around cooldowns. If you land the hook and he gets Black Shield, you still have a lower cooldown on your next coming hook, and then you can abuse that window. 4 to 5 seconds is what you have to beat that Black Shield through the race, and that's what forced Vardax to Valkyrie. Now we see Hora in the mid lane, gets charmed, gets chunked, 20%.
That was close. Ryu almost level 6 with Ignite. That was a little bit of a confident play. As you can see, Ryu's RE stats. We've not talked much on this mid lane. The lane swap drama plays on the sides, but those are pretty impressive stat lines from H2k's mid lane.
And this guy, Ryu, he's the guy who will always show up when it really matters. When you're playing in front of a big crowd, when it's about getting to Worlds, he will perform for H2k. They can trust in him in the mid lane. That's why they can also blind pick the likes of an Ahri and say, you are gonna win this lane against Power of Evil.
Yeah, and Kasing, as we saw right there, just adding so much pressure simply by walking forward. He forced the Black Shield. Hylissang's low on mana. This tower is going down. We're approaching a 2-0 tower lead for the H2k squad. And they're comfortably trading. They're ahead in this bot lane right now. Ryu's comfortably in the mid lane. If Odoamne can keep his cool in the top lane, H2k are poised to take a very big step towards winning game 1.
And this is what happens when you make a mistake in these lane swaps early on. It can so quickly snowball out of control because it's small advantages. They just jump on top of each other and it becomes more and more and more. Now, not enough gold for BF Sword, so Vardax is staying in lane to try and farm it up. Otherwise, he would have to go for like an average blade, which is not ideal for him on Tristana. So let's see if he takes one more wave and then goes back for the BF.
Yeah, we see Lulex approaching his own blue buff. Side of map, he's already 3/4 of a level ahead of his opponent Horo, and we talked about this on the analyst desk as well. Can Horo outclass Lulex? Is Lulex the weak link? Right now, he has added more pressure, had better map awareness, and just generally did more for his team than Horo has done. All Horo has done this game so far was show mid, get charmed, and fail a gank in top lane.
And that's why I really like the change for H2k compared to the Fnatic bans we saw where they targeted 3 mid laners. They left the Orianna open and said, no, we gotta get rid of Elise. We don't want to first pick her for Lulex, and we don't want Horo to have that early pressure. Ban it, and instead it becomes an even match here. And because of the failed lane swap, it has allowed H2k to get that map vision. They can even go aggressive now on top.
Well, let's find out. Chachi does get caught by the resonating strike. Odoamne flashes for this. Lulex gonna ward hop forward. This could be the first kill in Sweden, and Vizichachi is roasted by Odoamne.
Such a tough situation as a top laner. Your tower is gone. You have to push out that wave. You cannot just let the Rumble sit there and freeze it. And suddenly you're left on your own. Lee Sin shows up and you're dead.
And that's the problem for the Unicorns right now. They can't make that same play at the other side of the map because both top lane and bot lane are supported by the tower in their back. If something goes wrong, you just run to your tier 1 tower. Vizichachi died at the ruins of his tower. That was the tower they lost first in the lane swap. Lane swap went back to the bottom. Tristana took yet another tower. If they can find an opening in mid, they can get a 3-tower lead somehow. Start pressuring the Unicorns.
Getting some good early items now on the side of Odoamne. Blasting one picked up. Can go for the Abyssal Scepter into this very heavy magic damage comp you mentioned, Crepo. Horo as well. Normally what we see from Rek'Sai, if you're in this kind of compositions, you would go for Warrior Enchant because you need to add some physical damage. But he tends to prefer the Cinderhawk instead, being a bit more late game scaling. And Kasing, the mind games.
This is not the first time we've seen Kasing throw a fake lantern. It hasn't always worked out for him because when teams do the math, they just chunk him out. But he's feeling confident again, and that's what we need to see when he gets his Thresh. Because they first picked this champion, they have to make it work.
Working in favor of H2k. We mentioned how they've got more experience in lane swaps. They average around 800 gold after 10 minutes. They're near at 2,000 gold thanks to the kill, thanks to the towers. It's gonna lead to these item advantages. We need to see how Odoamne handles himself. Fans, however, always on the side of Unicorns of Love.
Even though.
But they're playing from behind.
Yeah, very, very close. And Unicorns do have some decent pink wards at least being set up here, but it's just a matter of time before H2k realize, okay, let's start clearing out the river here. The one you see above the mid lane near the Baron has been there for quite some minutes. And I would like to see H2k just say, okay, now we take over the map completely. We don't even allow you to have any vision in the river, because that is the way for Unicorns to start creating picks with this Morgana binding into Syndra. Massive amount of nuke, of course.
Back all the way in Spring Split, when Hylissang locked in that Morgana, the strength of it was that he and Bartek together could get some kills in lane with that famous Morgana Jinx combo, then started the roam and the snowball. Right now, he didn't get anything in the early game. That makes his roams incredibly telegraphed. He's not finding any openings. Especially not alone. He will need Horo to join up with him, but then the 2v2 is just so much weaker because Lulex is just out-leveling Horo right now.
And I think it's also worth saying that it was Jinx Morgana they used so often. Both champions have been nerfed since spring. The adaptation this time around was taking the Corki pick, but also Morgana maybe picked more into the Thresh, or just for the pick potential with the Syndra. So far, not enough.
Yeah, due to the Tormented Soil nerfs, as we see H2k not only get 2 towers, they pick up a dragon. They did that because they just didn't have enough pressure in the laning phase in the bot lane, because Tormented Soil was nerfed on Morgana. That loses her trade potential, especially with the AD carry. All she then has is binds and Black Shield, but that is a defensive approach. And we want to see from the Unicorns is a more aggressive approach. Go out for the spin guard. Hook goes out, Power Eagle Charm.
Oh, that's into a 3-man play almost. The box is down, but there was no more support.
But again, this is why they wanted that Morgana pick. The Black Shield coming in, blocking the charm, allowing Power Eagle to flash away, and then pull Kasing with him and just blow him up.
But yeah, let's be fair, that was a bit too trigger happy on Kasing's side. He could have seen that that was coming. He had that ward out there, that gets swept. So a little trigger happy. He's playing aggressive. Unicorns good punish. With a little more of this if they want to close this 2,000 gold lead already at the 12-minute mark.
For Unicorns, they're still looking to secure their first tower. Chachi's playing it a lot safer since he's given up that kill in the top lane. And Power of Evil's got himself an assist on the board, but he's down 20 CS. Thanks to the pressure that Ryu's putting down.
Yeah, because Unicorns of Love has struggled so much with also the jungle pressure, or we can talk about the vision pressure coming in from H2k and losing these 2 towers. They haven't been able to push any lanes on their own. There's no lane where they're winning, which means if they're gonna start taking down towers, they will have to rely on creating a pick first and then use that numbers advantage to move down into the mid tower or the top tower, whatever it is, and start getting some global gold. Otherwise, if it keeps being standard lanes, H2k fine farming. Odam is overextending the way too much.
Well, he's gonna put down the equalizer. I think this will be a kill. Dredgeline holds him in place for a few seconds longer, but there's enough support. Oduwamne, he just waltzes away.
2 guys on the way from the mid lane. On the side of H2k, Lansom was nearby, and also the Cinderhawk on the Horo didn't have that early damage. Didn't want to chase it either. So smart from Universe not chasing it. Sad for them they couldn't get the kill.
And Deficio Lulex, the opposite numbers, gone for that Sidestone, gone for the Warrior enchant. And he's got himself at least an assist on the board, but we'll need to see if he can keep finding those picks, which is what the H2k comp really wants to do a lot.
That is what we see from Lulex mainly. It has been a problem for H2k. Synergy between Lulex and the rest of the team. Lulex getting Yanen.
Yanen's in trouble. Ryu wants to try turn this around. Yanen, he's got alive. He gets
Dangerous
the
game.
It's a bait.
Yanen with levels. Calculations, jumps in, realizes that he's outnumbered, but H2k quick to follow up.
Oh, Hylissang.
Oh. A very interesting play. It's where you have, as a Thresh player, you have to wait for your AD carry to click the lantern, then you proc the hook. Basically trading places right there. Yanen going aggressive. H2k so far, a lot of aggression coming out.
Always spam ping on that lantern in solo QB. Come on, please click it. I want to make the big play.
Not gonna happen though. Ryu with the quick follow-up, because he has all this pressure in the mid lane, he's always ready to move first. So he wants those abilities going cool. PoE uses the ulti, Ryu 20%, but not really much follow-up.
So Ryu decided to stick to the Morello Nomicon. Didn't go for any Theans early on because he wants to try and match some of the damage coming in. Syndra as a champion though, have been one of those that can force you to build a lot more defensive early on because of that burst we just saw here from Power of Evil. Instead, Rio's saying, I'm going to wait for second item, Abyssal Scepter most likely.
Yep.
Coming in. Now, 3 members on top side for H2k. Hard to push this tower though.
Yeah, because the Unicorns are forced so far back into their defensive positions near their towers, they have to really make those couple wards count that they can get out. Chachi placed the ward right there that spotted the enemy support and jungle. That buys him at least 1.5 minutes of time. Then in turn, on the bottom side of the map, now Vardex can aggressively push out that tower because he knows he will only face 1 or 2 members at best. Valkyrie Flash should be enough to disengage that. They finally pick up a tower.
Basically just a little bit too greedy roam. How we're missing the stun, but now Hylissang is joining.
Not going to happen though. Ryu didn't really connect with the charm. But Blue is ultimate for that.
So that roam top though, from H2k, where it sent Kasing in as well, on a tower that was already, or the minions were already at the tier 2 tower, a little bit optimistic. And once you remove that support, unless you at least gain some deep vision, it's an easy trade for Unicorns to take a tower. And that's one of the ways they can start getting back into this game. Because yes, Unicorns won the early game, but it's by no means over yet. There's enough pick potential on Unicorns to still turn it around.
And gentlemen, we're playing this game very deep in enemy territory. Oduwamne has still not left the top lane. We did see that Hjarnen's at least pushed out bottom, but that gold lead is not growing further. H2k have not been able to snowball the advantages that they accrued 10 minutes ago.
We're gonna need to see if the Unicorns can group up and actually beat H2k near a potential objective fight. Whether it's a buff, a dragon, a baron, something where they can use this wealth of CC. Depth charge, channeling in, scatter the weak, just finding a binding on top of that, isolating targets and blowing them up immediately. That's what they need to do. To the other side, H2k just have so much damage. If they get one pick, the reset from Tristana, repositioning these fights can be absolutely lethal for the Unicorns.
And that's why I liked at least what Unicorns did in the start of the game, trying to get up these pink wards in the river. That would allow Hylissang to maybe sneak in a lane or sit ready with a binding into the stun from Power Weaver. Like that pick potential is what they're playing around, but it requires that vision control. If H2k starts getting to objectives first, set up some grid wards here, they're gonna spot all the moves from Unicorns above. They're gonna see when they're hiding in these bushes here, and then you avoid that pick coming in.
See, we can already see Hjarn starting to think about the late game. You may wonder why you say that, but because he picked up the Avarice Blade. That means he's going for IH to shift. This speeds up the Last Whisper as a third item. He probably does that because he saw the Cinderhulk on Horo and the tanky Chachi. He knows that he will be playing Tristana into tanks, therefore you'll need an early Last Whisper to deal with them. Speeding up that build, getting a little more gold as well. Chachi gets juked here by Oduwamne, but his team is closing in. Can H2k get something out of this on the other side of the map? Because nearly surely Oduwamne is going down here.
Yeah, he's just going to get taken out. 3 members of Unicorns. It didn't work with 2, so they brought in a third. H2k, though, they're going to get a lot of damage on this inner turret.
Small thing, though. When you're in that situation as a Rumble, you ulti the wave incoming instead. That stops the push coming on your tower, at least slows it down. Instead, though, H2k, they are trading a tower, but so will Unicorns of Love here. They're going to get the top one because the wave is still alive, and they can use it to push in.
Not only is that wave alive, Vardex may be able to clean it up. He's picked himself up that Trinity Force. So for Unicorns of Love, he could take advantage of the mid-game power of Syndra and Corki. And we can see Hjarnen still scaling. He wants to get more items completed. Tower trade, H2k will most likely secure the second dragon uncontested as well.
So overall, H2k get out of that play with a net win. Even though it was Oduwamne going down, they get a tier 2 tower that they trade for a tier 1 tower, and then they trade 1 kill for a dragon. Worth it in my book. Power Reveal right now, he has picked up the Luden's Echo, so he definitely wants to find somebody and one-shot them. But because they're so far behind in the early to mid-game, he's going to need his team members to help lock down this ever so mobile Ahri on Ryu.
And the key thing about Luden's Echo as an item right now, especially as like a first item, compared to, let's say, Deathcap.
Yeah.
Luden's Echo, if you connect one spell, it will do more damage, because it procs it, great for you. But if you do a full rotation of spells, Deathcap would have been the superior item. Obviously, you don't want to rush that as a first one, but you're now delayed by going for this Luden's Echo at least. And Power Weevil clearly aiming for a bit of poke, but then also the movement speed is so key in Syndra when it comes to connecting your ball here to land the stun.
Also gives you that instant wave that you need to put pressure here. Chachi. Ooh. No save in the Black Shield. You need to trust your support in those situations. You're a tank. You can take that hook. He's already has Frozen Heart and Mercury that's finished. Preemptive flash right there, and shows that the Unicorns are a little shaky in this first game, whereas H2k seem more confident, being okay with going for aggression, going for displays, even if they backfire.
I do like the fact that Unicorns grouped though. They had a Trinity Force, they pushed the tower, got a kill, and they seem to be trying to use this item spike, which is not something we've said about the Unicorns of Love for quite a few weeks though.
But this very much is the Unicorns of Love of Spring. Always play around the spike, especially if you're mid laner, Power Weaver, and he was on the Syndra, he was on LeBlanc very often as well, so he could create picks in the mid game, and they would group with him and look for them, and they would start pushing down objectives. If the other team didn't have proper wave clear, or were caught out of position. Suddenly Dragons fall, the Baron will fall, and the Unicorns can snowball it. But H2k did a very good job here, not getting caught out, even force a flash, as you mentioned before, Mitch.
Yeah, and especially in these games, people try to tense up and just join in the middle of the game, in the middle of the map, instead of taking care of their side waves. So side wave minion control will be paramount to victory. We saw a massive wave bunched up 4 Unicorns of Love in the top lane. Chachi's clearing that right now. Oduwamna did the same thing in the bottom lane. Let's see if any of these teams can create a slow push, use it as a 6th man advantage, and then try and outmaneuver their opponents, because that is what you do to win the mid game.
And H2k have actually got a pretty good history when it comes to winning the mid game when they have a lead at 20. 13-2 is their win-loss when they have an advantage. And this is the reason why. Flash, Bardags is going to flash defensively. Black Shield and heal means he survives.
So close for Ryu, but what a move though.
Yeah, really aggressive move there coming out of Ryu, and most importantly, this minion wave is alive because Power Reveal is nowhere to be found, and traditionally, when Power Reveal is nowhere to be found, things get messy. Healerstein gets chunked, tower goes down.
It's easily secured by H2k. They extend the gold lead once more. One aggressive play that's well-timed from Ryu nets another objective.
But here's the things Ryu will do for H2k. When he's on these champions where he can make plays in the mid game, when he's not sitting back farming defensively, that's why he likes Ahri so much. One of the mid laners who uses it a lot in the EU LCS, because he's not afraid of doing this. We've seen it backfire, but more often than not in playoffs, Ryu will make it work.
Ahri rejoins his team in the mid lane. Charm goes wide, auto deception as well. We sync you as well. Chachi can go in. Not much gonna happen. Tower drop. So this is the reaction play from the Unicorns. But meanwhile in the bot lane, Oduwamna is putting pressure. There's a massive wave amassing in the top lane. H2k can go pick up the farm, and meanwhile Bardax is farming up, and he will, or Hjarnan rather, he will outscale the Corki in the late game, especially with that Tristana.
And that's the key thing. Notice how H2k have not decided to go into a 5-on-5 team fight. They haven't said, oh, you're pushing out tower, we're gonna hard engage on you, because you don't want to risk the Syndra, the Corki, the insane mid game they have. Even the Nautilus will still have decent base damage at this point in the game, and because he has these early tanky items, he will be hard to kill. So they're simply saying, we're just gonna play around your 5 versus 5. We're gonna always control the side lanes. We're gonna maximize farm on our carries. They run triple threat, obviously, with the Rumble in the top lane. So it's very important you can always split up in 1-3-1, clear 1 or 2 waves, and then regroup and be ready to defend if needed.
And when it comes to AD carries, Hjarnan is the #1 damage share AD carry in the team. He deals more damage than every other AD carry in his role. H2k lean back into him in his late game all the time. He's just picked up a static ship, has that eye edge, and will start working towards that armor penetration, which he so desperately needs to get to the front line of UOL.
And that's one of the key things about Tristana. Her early game, like her laning phase, has become very strong with the E changes that came in. But then once you start getting like 1 item completed, even 2 items, you become super reliant on your auto attacks. And that's why it becomes very important you get that static shift quickly, the attack speed, the second crit for your vintage to buff that one up, and as you mentioned, that armor penetration, because you're gonna deal with the front line.
And talking about crit, we could also possibly look to see that Harbinger coming in. Also gonna buff up your AD carry in the mid to late game if they want to go that route.
I think Harbinger is an incredibly potent item and is just underused in general so far in the LCS. Obviously very new, so teams are still adapting to it. I love Tristana with an IH PD combination if you can get that. However, if you're playing into double tanks that are doing okay in a game, I think it's wise speeding up your build, going for the 3rd item, Lost Whisper, especially if later on gets the Harbinger in there, you can just wreck teamfights on your own. You can tear through these tanks, get the reset, keep going. Unicorns of Love, they'll need to make something of this mid-game spike they're having because they're getting outscaled towards late game.
They have a good setup around Dragon now. We talked about this earlier. The pink wards in the bushes near these objectives is the key thing. Problem is H2k are doing the same on the Baron side here. So they're saying if you want to rush a Dragon, we might potentially start that Baron. Otherwise, we want to try and pull you away at least from these pink wards so you can't catch us out.
Yeah, but the Unicorns can call their bluff. There's no way a triple threat composition is going to do that Baron with so many people near them because they don't have a tank that can really soak up the damage. If you get caught right there in that Baron pit with triple threat, yes, you have a lot of damage, but you're so low already from the Baron AoE, you can get blown up, especially by a Syndra. It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
It's simply just trying to pull Unicorns away from this Dragon here, because look here, we got a pink ward in this small bush in the river, we have one up there near the mid lane. So there's so many ways for Hillside to hide. You can see him already up in this small bush just on top of your screen, ready to say, anyone gonna face check? Here's a binding in your face, and then Power Beaver's gonna destroy you.
So H2k were unable to pull UOL away from the Dragon. Unicorns secure their first. What they do trade, a lot of farm for Hjarnan in the bottom lane, and tower pressure up top. Ryu, he's gonna get stunned! Unleash power of evil gets the kill!
Greedy setup here for H2k by sending Jan into that bottom side and clear the wave while all the 4 members went top, and now Kasing also caught behind the enemy line.
Hook on hook, this is dirty. Kasing gets killed by Power of Evil.
And this is definitely H2k wanting too much, and Unicorns using that wave that we talked about earlier in the bot lane. Massive bot wave coming out of there. So who had to clean that? Yarden. That is one of the 3 carries. H2k in reaction to that dragon, they pinged top tower to say we're going for that tower. But instead they want to get fights in the jungle too. That is too much to do at once, and they find themselves picked off. This results in a Baron.
And I want to talk about H2k being not on the same page. It's what we saw from them in the semi-finals, and now 3 members have to try and interrupt this Baron. Unicorns not losing a lot of HP. That's a defensive flash. Odoamne gets caught. He gets bound. He gets stunned. He doesn't even equalizer. And this may be Baron.
Oh, no, they're backing away. Took quite a lot of damage on the side of Unicorns of Love. Got another pick for it, so they're trying to even out the gold. But H2k cannot be so greedy against the pick potential of Unicorns. This is just Chachi flashing out, saying, you know what, Chachi, or Odoamne, I'm gonna get an easy kill on you.
Yeah, but it's fine, I think, on the side for H2k. They're fine trading 1 member for not having to face like that Baron. Because Luex was actually positioning very well. He always had the threat of being able to connect the Q on the Baron. If he doesn't even connect the Q, it's still a 50-50 smite. The Unicorns don't feel comfortable doing that, so they settle for a single pick. However, I think what we want to highlight, especially in this scenario, is that H2k wanted too many things at once. They used to be this prime strategic team with good ideas of what to do in different stages of the game. But right now, they were pushing out bot, they were invading in the jungle and sieging a tower in top. Doesn't work.
But it's the second time this game where they've been trying to split up their own team and get something on every single lane. And it's just so tough to pull off. One misplay, and that guy's caught out. What they could have done instead, if they wanted to clear that wave bot lane, you should teleport. Use Odoamne, have him recall 20 seconds before, because that dragon was being taken by Unicorns anyway. They knew they couldn't contest it. Send the other 4 guys up top and have your TP bot, so at least you can be 5 versus 5 in case a fight breaks out.
And that is obviously H2k saying farm priority number 1 isn't our AD carry hyper-scaling late game champion, sure, but you have to be able to switch that up on the fly when the situation requires it. I do definitely agree that Odoamne should have been there in the bot lane, or H2k should have just yielded the map, say, okay, we value farm over these objectives, we don't need to take the risk because we outscale. But even amidst all of this, we already have a triple item spike on Kjaren, and he can start doing damage.
And that's the key thing, and even though we just criticize H2k for being a little bit too greedy, they are still ahead in gold, 2,000. Right now, 27 minutes, and Unicorns have managed to push a few towers, but they're now once again back in the mid lane, and it's going to be tough pushing out for a second one. They are looking for the picks.
And for Unicorns, this is a little bit of growth. We didn't get to see much from them in the semi-finals. Fnatic really exploited a lot of weaknesses, but for UOL, they're showing a little bit more control. We see a banner command picked up by Hylissang. That might help some of the side lane pressure, but can they use the map play to their advantage?
No, I definitely think the Unicorns will need that side lane pressure, because as we see how this game is turning out to be, Power of Evil is specking into an Abyssal second after Ludens, so he's taking the defensive approach while his team is already very heavily specced into magic damage and behind in the early to mid game. We see very defensive builds come out of the jungler, and the top laner do. The Unicorns are going to run out of damage unless they start rotating and outplaying H2k on the map.
See the same for Vardex as well. Going BT, it looks second item for him, so basically you have the route. If you're against tanks, go play the Rune King second on a Corki. If you're against squishies, you want to deal maximum damage, you go Infinity Edge. BT is the defensive option. Unicorns know they're running out of time, and that's why they're looking to force an objective, and they want, once again, Unicorns to face check in towards them, but there's not enough pinks being set up around it, at least, to force that.
And these type of panic Barons, we've talked about this before in the past, they're just a symptom of a poor shot calling team that is just not on the same page. You like, what do we do? Can't siege top, can't siege bot. What do we? Okay, I guess we just start hitting Baron and hope they face check and die. But H2k is smart enough of a team to avoid that. So now that Baron bait turns into a pick on Kasing though.
Kasing is down, the equalizer is out, and this is erupting into a very big fight. It's Unicorns with the first 2 kills. H2k got the tower and are in full retreat. UOL find the picks.
We keep highlighting how this composition, 1 binding from Hylissang, 1 hook from this Itachi, that's enough to one-shot a target with this Syndra. Still 30 minutes in, there's no locket yet. Now, finally, at least we get some MR coming in from Lulex to help his team. Back at Baron, though.
And we didn't see the kills from Hylissang in lane because he's making bot for it in the mid-game. Hylissang has had Morgana banned away 15 times this split because he is the Morgana sniper. he's finding pick after pick. And you can also praise, criticize H2k a little bit for not respecting it.
But in the end, all that matters is that Unicorns have found multiple picks over time. Find these openings. First Baron bait was 2-force. H2k reacted with a power push. But you're not going to kill that one. Chachi with super speed. Catches out of one there.
Let's find out what other CC can connect. Nothing this time. TP to keep the banner empowered minion up. The last time Dragon was around, H2k were unable to defend it, and that started H2k's downfall. UOL have got control. Oh, the Raptor! Flash away! Binding still connects. Kasing's gonna do a defensive play. Then he flashes away. Still alive. Yonet's got caught by the dredge line. Equalizer's trying to burn the back line, but UOL sidestep. Another dark binding. Bizachachi's the tank that UOL need, and he's on the front. Satchel charge is on. It's not gonna be enough to get the kill. That's UOL backing away. Have they lost control of Dragon Pit? H2k are hurting. Doesn't look like you're gonna start it yet.
And this game so far has been a series of well-thought-out plays that actually right on paper, but just poorly executed. That Baron bait from Unicorns wasn't the greatest. H2k did the right thing. Okay, you leave mid lane exposed, we start sieging your tower, but H2k get a little greedy. They overstep their boundaries, and then suddenly one of them gets caught. That's fine, you can disengage. But instead of doing that, they try to fight their way out. Just chaos erupts every time, and that is what the Unicorns like. If you start randomly fighting each other, Unicorns tend to thrive and come out ahead.
It is not a bad thing to sacrifice one guy if you already got a tower anyway.
Yeah.
You don't have to re-engage the fight. H2k, every time they've made a mistake, it's been due to greed. Trying to make two plays at the same time. Going in for teamfight, they're already lost basically. Unicorns are back at Baron once again. There's a pink in the Baron pit, but we see H2k, they're on their way.
Keep your eyes on Power Wheel and Hillsang. The double zone control coming out of Dark Binding and the combo for Scatter the Weak. That's what you're looking for. Anything connects and Unicorns are ready to pull that trigger. Charm goes wide, Over Deception, Lee Sin, Resonate Spec, all down right now.
Baron is going low. Baron is going low. 3,000 hit points.
Wait for it.
Stop it. Waiting to stop. Equalizer's coming up. Baron secured by Unicorns. They are in the lead. But Yonen's found a kill along with Ryu. Bizachachi's in trouble. This is going to cost UOL 3 members.
The plan for the Unicorns of Love was not to stay on the Baron, it was to force a pick once again with the binding with the stun from Syndra. So they wanted H2k to move close and then disengage away from that Baron. One-shot that one target. Instead, they finished off the Baron because H2k did not pull the trigger and they were caught in the middle of a Baron pit with Rumble, Ahri, all that AoE damage.
And they trade the Baron for a tower and 3 kills. Whether it's worth it or not, we'll have to see once these members with the remaining Baron buffs start re-pushing after this play, so we can't judge it quite yet. But good patience from H2k, and the pressure from Lulex is what made that happen, because he was ready to smite steal, connect the Q on the Baron. Everybody was looking at Lulex, including all the Unicorns of Love members. Well,
including us.
Yarden and Rio say thank you very much. We'll simply tear apart your squad. Doesn't matter if you get the Baron, we'll kill you all. You have to flash defensively. However, the return play, this is what's happening now. It's always a boomerang. You throw it first, it comes back. Can the Unicorns capitalize?
But H2k should be more than happy with taking inhibitor, getting the kills. Unicorns has not been split pushing at all in this game. They've always been grouped. So yes, they do have the buffed up minions. But once again, H2k is looking to fight them. Let's see. Notice the focus on Lulex. Chachi's gonna knock him up and that's when they finish it. But they're now stuck in the pit with so much AoE damage.
And that's a positioning mistake. You're fine playing the zoning game in front of the pit at the earlier stage of the Baron fight. But when Baron goes low, what you should do is know what your plan B is if the Baron goes down. Shall we fight or not? In that case, Unicorns of Love could obviously not fight. It would have been better for Vardax and even Hillsang to position at the back of the pit and be able to escape, cut your losses, sacrifice your support. They do look to make use of that Baron buff, take down a tower, and they need to. They need to get more gold advantage, especially while Old Wam is in the top lane. They need to force something.
Tower and the Dragon after that push, so we're now even on gold, and Unicorns have to handle those super minions. This is where we start to evaluate that cost reward of losing Inhibitor versus securing Baron.
Basically, the value of at least the Dragon is very, very low right now. Because we have 2 Dragons for each team, 34 minutes in. It's not going to be, you know, a 5-Dragon race for any of them unless we start going out to like an hour-long games. But the tower, they got good response from Unicorns, and we can see H2k saying, we don't want to sit back defensive. So now they're trying to make the counterplay and force Unicorns back to defend, and at least just keep them here until Baron is run out.
Obviously, the Unicorns are content with dealing with these sieges because everybody's grouped up. It's pretty easy to find them. Formatted soil in the pool. Hillsang did actually not know whether they were in there or not because he didn't have his gold item anymore, I believe, so he can't even get gold ticks, but H2k didn't really take that into account and just move out of the brush.
You can see all the pink wards littered around H2 Unicorn's jungle. Kasing has put down 11 pink wards this game versus Hillsang's 2. And you can see the control. It's allowed him to get a death sentence from Hilly, but Kasing has learned to not instantly re-click the Q.
When your body is telling you yes, you might want to listen to your mind. Not proc that hook. Noli Syndrome equivalent on that Kasing hook. Mostly very hard to learn. Probably die a couple times in the process, but when you do, you can call yourself a rank 5 fresh player. Spam that emote, you know, Control 6, taunt your enemies and take a tower.
There's a ban of command on Hillsang. He's been using it on the bottom lane minion wave, so we can see the massive one being built up that forces H2k back, but they already got that tower, so should be able to defend it in time. We saw the poor minion die as well. Showing it all to the crowd. And H2k can happily go back and say, we waited out Baron, we got mid inhibitor for it, it is dead even in gold, 35 minutes in. And we're gonna go back to this dance basically where Unicorns are looking to create that pick with the binding or the stun from Power of Evil, and H2k is looking for that more open team fight where nobody dies instantly.
Problem for the Unicorns right now is that some of these members from H2k are speccing into the defensive tree. Basically, QSS is finished on Hjarn. If a binding connects, he can QSS and jump out of that, and that might bait in the Unicorns to commit too much and get basically baited into a trap. So they have to make sure that what target they hit, they can actually kill it. Ryu will likely go for an item later. You might even see Mikhail's Crucible being built on Kasing, but it seems like he was going for the more aggressive approach by starting to build that Harbinger, likely what that Amtop is going to build into later, and just simply keep buffing up Hjarn. He can become a one-man carry. He can literally 1v9 once he finishes all his items.
Despite the lead that H2k had from the first 15-20 minutes, the moment Unicorns was able to pull some of that chaos that we saw from Spring with the team comp that we're used to seeing in Spring, H2k have lost a little bit of control. They're still trading objectives on opposite sides of the map, but that inhibitor's going to respawn very, very soon in the mid lane for UOL. Gold is even. Another big team fight mistake could cost either team the game this late in.
Start seeing again these big items being completed. Death Cap's on ready to fight though instead. Ryu is jumping in.
Let's see if we can find someone. He will get Hillsang. H2k committed a few ultimates to that. If they can get another tower, it's worth.
But the key member is almost gone here. The sniper is away, so suddenly what you gotta look for now is Power of Evil. Where is he placing the ball on the ground? Can he kick it in your face? Otherwise, you are free to deal some damage. Instead though, H2k, again, they're playing a bit safe because the objectives are respawning. 1 minute 20 on the Baron. That's going to be the key one to set up vision for. They already got a few good wards around it.
Yeah, and obviously we can't know what these teams are thinking shot calling wise, but if you take a look at the minimap, H2k has been pinging a lot this game, so their communication is augmented with these pings. They ping the top lane and say, okay guys, we need to fix this wave, make it into a slow push. They said middle inhibitor spawning, and we can all use all this information to secure these objectives. That's what we're looking for. If you're H2k, you want to make a slow push on the top lane, siege the mid lane, then disappear and just get rid of the vision from Unicorns and force them to face second turn. Because H2k is running a lot of damage. They only have a single tank on Rulex, whereas Unicorns, they're playing with a double tank composition, so all the damage is centered around Power of Evil and Vardex, and they're simply getting out-itemized magic resistance-wise.
And you talk about those objectives they want to set up for Crepo. 50 seconds to Dragon, 30 seconds to Baron. A few wards, but not the greatest from H2k in UOL's territory. 2 Dragons to 2, so Aspect is not on the cards for a long time for either of these teams. And it makes me think Baron's going to be the higher priority, also the more risky one.
Getting a 3rd Dragon at this point in the game is not very important for you. So no, you're not going to see a team trying to sacrifice that for Baron. Again, it requires us to go really long in this game for 5 Dragons. Instead though, both these teams, when it comes to setting up objectives, are not really doing themselves a whole lot of favors when it comes to denying vision. Instead though, Chachi is saying, I don't need vision, I'm just going to flash.
Rio's going to go golden. The death sentence will not be able to do anything thanks to the black shield. Chachi, he got melted because he was focused by all of H2k.
Equalizer didn't quite connect. A couple of wards left right there, and most importantly, the Rich Scuttler. So Unicorns will know that H2k is doing this. Teleport is available, but look at how quickly that Baron's going down.
It's still risky because now it gets a lot easier for Unicorns to land one of these skill shots and then set up that pick. Chachi's back with the home guards. Everyone once again resets, and both teams as I just said before, not helping themselves when it comes to denying vision, or not upgrading trinkets, very few pink wards on the map as well.
And H2k would very much so prefer that the action would move down on the map so they can make use of this massive top wave slow push that they've been building up. It will take another minute to hit, but they're playing around the dragon, giving Unicorns easy access to the contested part of the map. So H2k, a bit of a mistake, and Kasing gets caught.
Gets caught by a hook, gets caught by a binding, gets killed by Power of Evil. The Buster shot held onto there by Hyun, and his Horo was kicked back. An easy kill for UOL, but the side lanes are pushing.
Yeah, look at both bot lane and top lane set up by H2k, but they're not using those slow pushes. They're hesitant, impatient, and just rushing their decisions.
Exactly. By them starting that Baron again, they lose the entire value of those minion waves. They're now basically just feeding even more minions to Unicorns, because the map is going to reset anyway. Kasing is dead. Power of Evil, get jump on. Oh, Yarden, that's very aggressive.
Dead.
Well, okay. I mean,
welcome to late game through stun. That's
your
what she
one-man
does.
army, I guess, jumping forward into a Syndra and getting the kill.
Even if PoE's stun came back up, he could have just QSS'd out of that immediately. Tristana can be played aggressively so well if you make use of that aggressive jump. What you need for that is obviously cojones and some vision control. Yarden bringing both to the table, and that middle lane inhibitor is going down.
It helps bringing Swedish pride in front of a Swedish audience to make the solo play for your hometown. Yarden, at least home people rather, Yarden is going to now make use of this big wave. Nobody from UOL was able to clear it out. That is a metric ton of minions.
So we went from being, why did you start that Baron? You're not using your side minions now, you build up, you're too greedy, to Yana with the solo outplay, Power of Evil, caught too far up in the lane, and now suddenly they can use it in time, get inhibitor, number 2 down.
And this is why I love the late game Tristana. He didn't even need those minions. All he needed was one minion, because it took him 4 shots, plus the explosive ability on his E to tear away that tower, just stopped existing. Second inhibitor went open, and now Unicorns of Love are so far behind. If the H2k just wait for the super minions to amass, the Baron should be pretty much uncontested.
But looking at H2k today, they're not going to wait for anything. They just constantly want to try and go for multiple plays at once, and it has cost them in this game here. It's one of the reasons it's so even in gold still. But now they're finally sitting here. Look for Ryu to find a different bush than the rest of his team. He's going to be a little bit lonely, but he's looking for Unicorns then to invade in to stop this Baron, and then he sits behind them. He gets to pick onto Vardax or Power of Evil and wins it for his team.
You make it sound so simple, Deficio.
How easy it is.
You
Just
make
pick
it
Ari,
sound
wait in
so
the bush,
simple.
and kill people.
What I do like about this game and the start of the series, at 40 minutes, this is the second closest match we've had all split in terms of gold. Only 200 separates them now at 42 minutes, even on Dragons. But Unicorns of Love have to deal with 2 lanes of super minions. And they're currently grouping around Baron.
Yeah.
H2k, they're late to the party. Oduwamne does have TP though.
H2k should not send 3-4 guys over to a Dragon at this point. You need to keep the rest in the mid lane to stop this play from happening. Baron is going down. They're rushing in now.
The closest ward was in the pit. Oduwamne opted to teleport in the mid lane. Mid lane is exposed. Look at those super minions. H2k have to do absolutely nothing at all. But it's very hard in League of Legends sometimes to just wait for things to happen. You always want to force that one ability, go a little bit too far, make that play. Okay, now they're turning back to the Baron because they look at the base of Unicorns of Love. Somebody has to start defending that.
Who will it be? Unicorns, they're too late to this party. Baron is going to go down shortly. Horo's coming in. Evil! Unicorns of Love may be able to do something with this. We see Hyuna jump forward. Hillisite forced to flash defensively. He will be going down. Scatter the weak as Power of Evil flashes away. Now Chachi, he's in and amongst H2k. He does not want to be there. Super minions want to be winions. H2k are letting the minions do the work for them. A Nexus turret's gone down. The second Nexus turret is under pressure.
They got minions now though. Minions respawn, so they will help them defend. Power of Evil has now stolen 3 Barons. And very often in playoffs, for some reason, this guy pulls off a trick and he gets it. The junglers don't know how he does it, man. They hate him for it, but he gets the Baron.
To be fair, it was a combined effort from Horo and PoE putting pressure. But honestly, let's call it what it is. It was a big, big mistake. Look at H2k right now. They know this is going to happen.
Kasing's sort of stalled out. He's been sitting at the M turn for a very, very long time.
Welcome to the life of support.
A lot of gold into those pink wards. But the problem is we've not seen them used exceptionally well.
Yeah, do you think H2k is going to slow down to give Kasing the relic procs? Do you know how hard it is to get relic procs with Thresh this point in the game? So he's getting almost no more gold generated. Same thing, Hillsang went for that coin and talisman. That is easily generated gold. You just stand near your minions, you watch them die. Yeah, Unicorns of Love have been doing that a lot because they're 2 inhibitors who are down, so efficient GP10 itemization. That's what we love to see.
The Unicorns of Love, they are in control of the gold ever so slightly. Mid inhibitors respawn, but they're super still to back it up.
Flanking.
Chachi's looking for the flank. He's going to sidestep one skill shot. And that's going to be enough to hold on to the inhibitor for now.
Yeah, I think that is the right approach by the Unicorns. They simply just can't all come from the front door because it's too easy to disengage, land that equalizer. Some pressure from the side is always good, especially when once you're sieging. That's why I really like these new gates that we added there on the side.
He's constantly, though, looking for Jan and see if he can get at least a knock-up onto him and then allow Power People to burst him down before he can even use any of his defensive tools to stay alive, because he is obviously the main carry. There's Hourglass on both Rio and Yanen, so they can prevent their one-shot coming.
Yeah, but H2k is patiently waiting for that flash on Ryu so he can charm flash. At the same time, the Unicorns, they want the flash on Horo for the knockup. The UE is obviously playing farther back than he would as if he had the flash, so very tempered aggression right now. If this stalls out for a couple more minutes, then we might see an explosive battle once these summer spells come up. Odoamne gets caught. He has Zonias though.
He's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Ryu's gone aggressive.
He is down!
Power of evil. That's the Ari play Deficio wanted, but it wasn't a death bush. Ryu's going to re-engage with a Spirit Rush. Hyunen's got meatballs for days. He's going to rocket jump forward. Going to be auto-attacking down. Chachi still alive. Buster shot and Dragon's Rage knocks him 2 screens away. They will get a kill on Hillsang. They will get another inhibitor. And 5 on 3, they're setting up for another objective.
That's the problem. If you try to follow up on a Dark Binding, but you can't get the target immediately, you get sucked in predictable pathing. That gets you killed because Sharon does so much damage.
He does, and Chachi is once again gonna get away. There's only one Nexus turret remaining. Vardax is the only real wave clear for Unicorns of Love. But he's caught by a death sentence, and that will sentence death to UOL in game 1. 5 members of H2k looking to take down the Mega Tank. They send Chachi to the depths, and they take the Nexus, and game 1 in our 3rd place decider.
And at the end, H2k have the patience to use predictable pathing. They should have done it more around their objectives, but in the end, let's do it. Because when the Unicorns of Love land a binding, they're gonna walk forward. If they walk forward, you know where they're going. You send out that hook, you send out that charm. Eventually, when they're defending that tower, you send out that hook. Somebody will walk into a skill shot. Patience is what they needed. They didn't have it around the Baron.
But also the team composition, late game. We mentioned a few times the heavy magic damage coming in. Rio, yes, it wasn't a death push, but it was a wall. Instead, he got hide bang, he got the flank going. And then it was too easy for them to find the targets. And of course, the Hourglass helped them keep the rest of the members alive. So very back and forth game between these teams. It's going to be pretty awesome to see game 2.
I certainly hope this level continues. We're going to head over to the analyst desk to break down just how H2k won game 1.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Well, H2k does it here in game 1. Let's compare what we thought would happen initially to the mid-game and then the end results, because I feel like you felt that H2k had a clear game plan going in, but it just didn't work out that way in the mid-game.
Like, definitely. I feel because of their composition kind of allowed for mistakes, because later in the game they would be stronger anyway, but I felt like there was fluidity. Like, the lane that was pushing, they made a play with Lulex, got deep vision, made sure that Rumble was safe. And with that in mind, there was always a game plan, they were always doing something, but I felt in the mid-game they were a bit too eager. No patience, and they got punished.
I think when we look at picks and bans, one of the biggest adaptations coming into it was, you know, we talked about, can they just do what Fnatic did on the side of H2k? I like the adaptation. They ban the Elise, which forces the Sivir ban out of the Unicorns. And from there, everything becomes maybe a little bit predictable for H2k. You know that Vardax is likely to default to a Corki. They had Tristana in the bag to go a little bit later, but I just actually like the way that they go, okay, we know the Elise is a problem. We're not going to ban out 3 mid laners. We know Ryu can handle you.
I felt one big issue. I felt like Unicorns of Love had the opportunity to punish H2k even further by, for example, blind picking the Orianna in the rotation where they picked the Nautilus, because I think Rumble is a matchup that is good into Nautilus. And also I felt that they could have picked the Annie instead of the Morgana, because I feel like lately we haven't seen a lot of Hylissang Morgana. I felt it was a bit off in the early game, and Annie is something I like Hylissang on.
Yeah, definitely.
And dislike because of our games in the past.
Yeah, as well. It does get banned out versus him a lot. But with all that, though, and H2k doing good, ramping up a gold lead in the beginning of the game, somehow Unicorns of Love found the picks. Let's run one of the replays because I feel like H2k had the right idea in a lot of instances and made the right decisions, but somehow UOL ended up getting a pick in first this situation where they were pushing up mid, which was the right idea, but they get caught.
Yeah, for once we actually saw both sides of H2k in this game, the good and the bad. This was H2k looking for a play in the mid lane, but they're just not really aware of the flanks. They don't have the wards out on the map and they get caught from it. I mean, everybody talks about kind of chaos style. I actually just feel like Unicorns, when they're playing a style like this where it's pick, a lot of it's just on their enemies not warding properly. And that's what creates this chaos, is just enemies not respecting the ability to pick. This was the Baron seal where Unicorns...
No, this actually, where Unicorns of Love actually also make, in my opinion, a right decision, but don't finish it off in the end, or don't make the pick they want. And I feel like that was also the story, those Barons, and at one point not finishing a Baron, that would have been a done deal for Unicorns.
I feel like that at that time they had 2 inhibitors down. There was the only opportunity before the waves hit into their base to do this Nasher. I think it was a good call. They should have committed completely into it because they were in this very awkward position where the enemy team H2k could have done the Nasher and they had super creeps in their base. And the only possible solution, like Unicorn magic, and they just stole the Baron. It was just... I thought the game was over already, and I'm starting to become a believer.
Wow. Well, Stress, what about you? Doesn't it exemplify, you were talking about the chaos style and then because of the warding, Power of Evil stealing it, and Power of Evil up to that point had been the person that has done the most damage on Unicorns. It's kind of same old, same old.
It's kind of same old, but there's the same problem, is if Power of Evil dies, this time Vadax was picking up a lot of the slack. So we actually want to take a look at the damage done in this game between the predominant carries in the game. This time we're including top lane as well, because obviously we had one damage champion in Rumble going up against the Nautilus. So when we can take a look at the graphs that were done of the damage in game, we can actually highlight maybe the difference between the two team compositions.
I don't think it's ready just yet, but I do know that Power of Evil for the longest time had the most damage done, but then it goes over to Vardax because he got those couple of kills, and in the end happened what we thought would happen. That Tristana gets ramped up. We saw one example where he just 2 shots Power of Evil basically, and that was the story of the game.
I feel like with the composition Unicorns of Love were running, they had to win the early game harder. I feel like Corki Morgana, they are specifically picked for the Thresh Tristana lane. They should have punished that harder. And I felt the fact that Tristana, Kassing and Yarnan were winning that bottom lane early, they had a lane to play on. Lulex got the deep vision, and suddenly Horo gets kind of suffocated in his own jungle. Because if you have Deep Ward on one side and he's not there, you can predict that he's on the other side of the map. And with that in mind, I feel it's really important if they pick these stronger picks that they have to win the lanes, at least push the lanes.
Yeah. Is that the main adaptation for you as well we should see out of game 2? Has this game told you anything about either of the teams that can make you a little prediction or see that H2k is stronger than they were?
I feel like from that we learned that H2k, with the game plan they had coming into it, I feel like honestly all they've got to do is ward more. We had the Sightstone on Lulex. The time that they had wards on the map, they were making the good plays. It was when their vision died that they were kind of falling into a lot of situations where Unicorns were picking. I just feel like Lulex was a bit of a step up in this game. If he can stay at this level, I think H2k should be okay.
For sure. And I think the biggest adaptation I think H2k should do is just to take it a bit more easy, because they had the game plan, but then they wanted to rush a few steps ahead, and you saw people getting caught, and this should not happen if they want a fluent game, because they could have been punished even harder.
Well, it was only the first game in the series, of course. The jitters were there, but it's 1 win on the books for H2k, and the pressure's on the Unicorns of Love to tie the series up in game 2. And before we go, we'll hear from the 3 Swedes that have a home field advantage in Stockholm this weekend.
I'm from Tyresö, Stockholm, and I'm really excited to going back home and playing in my home city. In Sweden, we've always been kind of big in esports, but having the actual LCS finals is as excited I can ever be.
It will be like playing at home ground or whatever, so it will be really fun to play.
It's a really nice city, like it's very pretty, there's a lot of things you can watch and go see.
I don't have much memories from the city, so it's going to be a new experience for me as well.
I think it's pretty cool that all 3 Swedish AD carries managed to get there.
I think it's going to be an amazing experience that I can bring with me for a lifetime.